So first of all, I'd like everybody to announce their names for the recording. So this is Sarah Grimwood, Chair of the committee.
This is Stan Lux, member of the committee.
Sig Roos, member of the committee.
And Mark Hansen, member of the committee.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the first item on the agenda was to just update you on the rules about using this Zoom meeting and status of Concord town meeting and committees like this. So as I said, we're being recorded. Committees are now allowed to meet, but only by Zoom and only if they have essential business. And for our committee, I wouldn't say we're essential business, but the fact that our committee's charge is ending this month meant that we're allowed to meet in order to discuss revising the charge so that we can go to the select board and talk to them about extending our committee. So Mike Lawson said that that was considered essential business. As I've let you know before, I'm going to stand down from the committee because I'm going to be hopefully joining the Natural Resources Commission. So obviously, you know, the revised committee will we can talk about membership as far as what type of people you want on the committee, but have to talk about a new chair as well. But that will be for going forward, assuming the select board approve going forward. The other thing to let you know is that town meeting, you've probably hopefully seen on the town website, they have to make an application each month to extend the time of town meeting until a point where they feel it's safe. At the moment, they're looking at September. The town has enough funding and everything in place to keep moving forward until at least September. So the current plan is that the town would meet in September, but if the governor lifts the state of emergency for the state, then the town meeting has to take place within 30 days of the lift of the state of emergency.
Wow.
So just to let you know, if the state of emergency is lifted, then things could happen pretty quickly. But otherwise, we're probably looking at September. And obviously, there's a lot of discussion going on about how a town meeting might be held safely. It can't be done remotely because there's just too many voters. So they're looking into, multiple venues linked in together so that everybody can social distance, that sort of thing. But we'll hear more about that. And as far as whether our article will be on the town meeting, I think that's yet to be decided. I know that some towns have determined that they're going to go forward with town meeting with only the really critical articles. I'm not aware that our town has made any such decision yet, but obviously something that we'll find out more as we get closer to when there's town meeting. Okay. So that was the first agenda item. The second agenda item is to approve the meeting minutes from February. Oh, I've just had a note from Brian saying, oh shoot, sorry, I'll try in a second. So hopefully he'll join us. It's so long since we met in February that I didn't receive meeting minutes from Christian, but for my recollection and notes, all we did was look through the slides that were prepared for the town meeting. So hopefully you've all got a copy. It was in the email I sent out of the proposed meeting minutes. Has everybody seen a copy of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're very simple. Does anybody have any changes that they'd like to recommend?
No, they're good. Yeah.
Good with me too.
Yep, good.
Okay, in that case, we'll go forward with the meeting minutes from January 21st. Sorry, from February. Yes, from February 18th as drafted. Thank you. Okay, so next on the agenda. Recommendations for revising the committee charter. So hopefully you all have the charter in front of you, so I'm going to call it up on my screen. Let's see. I don't know if it helps to put it on my screen, but I will, so that we can. This one.
Here it is.
Okay, hopefully you can see that.
Yep.
So we can, I don't know the best way to do this. There's 2 pages, so we could talk about the membership and obviously the purpose. I think maybe what I'd like to recommend, if we go to the 2nd page first. How do I do this? Yeah. I thought maybe we could just look through the duties and responsibilities to agree on what we've done and what we haven't done.
Yeah.
Or haven't got to yet. So to become familiar with the issues concerning the use of neonics and the current science involving pollinators. Are there any comments? I certainly feel that we did that as a group.
I think that the issues continue, but we've got it under our belt. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I
So
agree. I think we've
probably
learned a lot,
do that.
and I think there's more to learn. Yeah.
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 To fully understand local, state, and federal regulatory roles regarding the use of neonics. Again, that probably still continues.
Same, yeah.
Yeah.
To solicit public input on the subject through a variety of methods, including holding at least 1 public hearing early in the fact-finding process.
Which we did, yeah.
And we're continuing.
We didn't do a public hearing, did we?
No.
We had, I thought, in my mind, I was thinking that the public showing up free to show up at our meetings would have covered that. No, but maybe not.
I think.
No, maybe not. But I think by bringing forward the article, which was discussed in public forums, not one, with the select board and such like. But I don't think it's what they meant here. But anyway.
Yeah, I think too, it's kind of, for me at least, it was kind of a funny item in the list because I think most people don't understand the problem, don't understand the relationship, don't understand pollinators. And so public input would be sort of like, what's a pollinator, or why is it a problem? It's sort of backwards.
Yes, yes.
Anyway.
So I think I mentioned before that when I went to the various groups to talk about the proposed article, when I went to the NRC, one of the members there proposed that Xerxes did a really good workshop on pollinators and the use of pesticides. So he's been following up to get more details and is waiting to get a quote actually. So that's something, well, that would be education more than a public forum, but you could potentially link the 2 together going forward. So we can, let you know more about that when that comes. Obviously, at the moment, we can't do anything like that, but still. Yeah. Okay, to determine whether any other communities have adopted policies concerning neonics and whether these policies might be beneficial for Concord. Well, Lincoln certainly have done a lot, and they have a really amazing website and a lot of activity, a speaker series, working with experts. And that, I got permission to put the links to their information on our website page.
Good.
But I guess we haven't actually polled the communities. It's just the ones we've come across.
Yeah, there's some work, very nice work being done out in Great Barrington. I can send you guys the reports on that. That actually was in part inspired the work in Lincoln.
Okay, great. Where was that? Great Burlington, you said?
Great Barrington, yeah, out in the western
Barrington.
state, yeah.
Great Barrington. Okay, great.
And I'd spoken with an individual who was involved in meetings that were being held up in Maine, in Boothbay.
Mm.
And I actually had provided to them a copy of some of the notes on what we were doing. And they promised to send me information on their committee, but that never showed up. I can try again and get it, but we certainly, I remember one evening I talked about the activities up in Maine that were going on. So I think there's a lot out there.
Yeah.
Some of it's pretty low key. It doesn't get a high visibility necessarily.
Yeah.
So that item number 5 then is still work in process, I would,
Yes.
I would say. Okay, number 6, to submit a final report. So we haven't done that.
Yeah.
And then to perform other such duties.
Yeah.
Been done. So there's still a lot to do here.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me go back to the previous page. Okay, so rather than go through it, does anybody have any specific comments they wanted to start with?
Just one, I guess, on the very first paragraph. There are 2 things I think we might want to change going forward. One might be that I don't think that there's a possible link. I think there's a link. And I think it's not sort of a question of whether neonics damage pollinators, it's the amount of neonics that are damaging. And at least based on the research I'm bumping into, you know, if you get below 1 part per billion, you may be all right, that kind of thing. And then the other is that this was sort of when we started out, we were focused on honeybees, but yet I think we're really concerned about native pollinators as well.
Yes, definitely. Well, it does say this, though. It says the loss of honeybee populations and the decline in other pollinators.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We've got that covered. Yeah.
Okay, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
And I think, you know, the wording, a possible link was because it's up to us to prove to everybody that it's a real link. I mean, I know that, you know, some of us may well be convinced, but
okay.
I think the wording there is...
I'd leave it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good point. All right, I agree with you guys.
Mm-hmm. So the science is still evolving on the toxicity and risks. I'd say that's true.
Can I add one other comment about that second sentence?
Yeah.
Many large-scale farmers praise the chemical as both effective and less toxic. I think the less toxic, a lot of people would argue less toxic to farm workers.
To humans, yeah.
Humans.
Could we add that in to humans?
Because that, you know, there's a lot, remember there's that article we talked about, or someone had brought forward saying that agriculture is 40 times more hazardous than it used to be for not pollinators.
Right.
48 times.
I think the intent here is less toxic to humans, but I think to state that would be...
I think stating that would be good. Yeah.
Does everybody agree, Stan and
Yes.
Sig? Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
I think we should be careful not to start messing with this too much because it just raises questions about our edits.
Okay.
I think we should only make changes that we absolutely have to make.
Yes, okay.
In fact, I think I'd prefer not to do this.
Okay.
Yeah, I would prefer to just leave it.
Leave it.
I don't want to have, I don't think it's worth having to explain ourselves.
Okay. I'll go with that.
Well, I think less toxic to humans.
I imagine there are farmers who think it's less toxic to everything.
Oh, to pollinators, or maybe, so it's just an opinion.
Yeah. And actually, if you talk to the public health guys at Harvard, they're not even sure it's less toxic to humans. So, you know.
Yeah, I think
because it fiddles with human, what is it? It's the mitochondrial DNA in humans that's just as damaged as it is in honeybees.
Okay, got it. So this, I mean, but this, the way the sentence is written, it's just saying what the farmers praise. It doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, That was my original whine about this version of the charge. As I said, this looks like it was written by a farmer.
Mm.
Now, if we go, I'm thinking here that if we go back to the evening where we had a meeting where we had representation from the farmers in the area, the message they gave us with respect to what there was two aspects of it, I think clearly. The one, that there was less of chemicals that could impact their workers, and I think that was particularly emphasized with the one. If you look at just the material, the neonicotinoids itself, there was less quantity of them, but if you combined it with the moving to coated seeds rather than spreading just the chemicals, that it was less toxic to other insects and other pollinators. So there was the two sides of it, and at least that one evening, what I came away with was that in their view, there was two benefits: less quantity, less impact on their employees, and then less quantity, less opportunity for it to go off property and have a wider effect than they wanted. That at least was their thought on it. I don't know I necessarily agreed entirely with what they were saying, but I understood what they were getting at.
Yeah. So the piece I think that's missing here that we do bring out in our article is the fact that neonicotinoids are very long lasting, and they do accumulate. Well, the research says that they accumulate in soil and get into the waterways.
Yes.
And that then affects the invertebrates in the water. There's evidence in the literature showing that it can affect the bird populations, and then also the fact that it can be taken up by other plants nearby, like the wildflowers that people plant next to the cornfields, for example. So I wonder if an additional sentence or focus for the group would be to look further into the environmental consequences of using neonicotinoids.
I think that's a reasonable idea. Yeah.
So how would you feel about that change?
Yeah, I think it's reasonable.
I think it's just missing from here, and that's certainly the piece that worries me a lot.
Yeah.
And why I really like our article, because it, I know a lot of farmers, including those in Concord, would argue that you just can't feed the world population without using neonics. But I would just argue, oh, well, okay, you have to have some, and we have some, but I don't want any more. Because
so why wouldn't we in B purpose on the fourth line, instead of say about the risk of these compounds to pollinators, just say about the environmental risks of these compounds?
Oh, that's good.
Period.
Yeah.
Well, take out, no, we need the last phrase.
Okay.
The environmental risks of these compounds and advising. So I would take out two pollinators.
Which section are you in, Sig? Sorry.
B, fourth line down.
B, fourth line.
B under purpose.
Brian says he can see us all. Hang on. Is he hidden under here somewhere? Oh, Brian, we can see you. Can you hear us? We can't hear you. If you come off mute.
We need to unmute maybe.
Oh.
There you go.
Oh, now we hear you.
Thank goodness for the young.
Don't worry, I had help joining as well.
never
Brian,
true.
I'm sorry, you were hidden under someone, so I didn't see you joining. But how much of this conversation have you heard?
I mean, I've heard, but I've mostly been trying to join, so
Okay.
I haven't been.
Okay, don't worry.
I heard talk about how farmers would consider neonics to be lower. I think it's absolutely true
Yeah.
that, you know, except for pollinators and other insects, that in most ways neonics are considered to be low impact in terms of vertebrates.
Right. Brian, before we continue, I'd just like to let you know that this is being recorded
That's fine.
and it will be on the town website. And could you just announce your name? It says Cramer, but could you let everybody know who you are?
Yeah, my name is Brian Cramer, and I'm a member of both the Agriculture Committee and the Pollinator Health Advisory Committee.
Thank you. And we're just going through the committee charge, Brian, which needs to be resubmitted with any revisions we might want because our committee ends at the end of this month. SIG is actually going to go to meet with the select board on Thursday to talk about continuing the committee. And so we're talking about whether we would want to make any changes to the charge. Okay, so SIG, I'm sorry, we were in the purpose. Which line was it we were talking about changing?
So go to section B, purpose.
Yeah.
At the end of the first sentence, we say, educating citizens, lawn care companies, and farmers about the risks of these compounds
Oh, yeah.
to pollinators. And I would take out to pollinators and put in about the environmental risks of these compounds.
Okay, got it.
And then continue the sentence, and advising on alternative best practices. Make sense?
Yes, it does. And Brian, I don't know if you caught that, but we were just talking about one of the things not captured in this charter is the fact that these are very long-lasting chemicals that evidence shows can build up in the soil and the waterways, so they can have a, you know, one of the things that we would want to look into more is the long-term environmental consequences. So it's broader than just the pollinators.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. You okay with that change?
Yeah. I mean, does that change the focus of the pollinator committee to being something more about neonicotinoids in and of themselves?
Well, a lot of the, let me think. So the purpose as it's written now is that it's to understand the regulatory framework for pesticide registration and use, and to examine the issues and concerns surrounding the use of neonics. So really, it's stated that the purpose is all about neonics.
Right. So, I mean, there may be other, you know, when Mark first talked about, it seemed to have to do with pollinators. And I mean, I think there's more issues with pollinators than just that one single class of pesticides. Not that I'm saying that single class of pesticides isn't particularly problematic, but I mean, you know, if the issue is that single class of pesticides is having an impact on pollinators, and they are uniquely important to, you know, to agriculture and other, you know, parts of our, you know, so there's other things that could affect them. So that would change the countenance of the whole committee if we're just trying to go against neonics, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously we have been talking about, you know, pollinator gardens and that sort of thing, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, I actually think that's an important aspect of what our charge is.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. And I think the pollinator gardens, part of the motivation is to provide clean forage for pollinators to reduce the concentrations of pesticides and particularly neonics in their diet, with the idea of trying to get below that damaging threshold for at least some of the pollinators. But I think another part of it is providing habitat, at least at Harrington Park, providing places where native pollinators can make a nest, and advising people in their homes on how to do that. I think if we take our title as the Pollinator Health Advisory Committee, neonics are a big part of it,
Right.
a critical part of it, but so is glyphosate, and so is the lawn services. I took a look at the numbers of the density of neonics in the soil based on the application rates recommended for coated seed for like corn seed and lawn turf, protection from using the product called Merit that Bayer puts out. Anyway, the bottom line is that the stuff they put on golf courses and lawns, professional services, is really creates a higher level of neonics in the dirt than those already high levels that coated corn seed produces after a few years.
Mm-hmm.
So, and assuming that these guys apply this on an annual basis, there's nothing that says that the soil level doesn't build up even higher in the dirt under a yard or a golf fairway. And then that sort of coupled with, I'm sorry, I'm on a little bit of a tangent, but Sig and I remember Sig when we went into the MDAR and got those pesticide reports, and we ran through the numbers, and we had Concord Golf Course using about almost 1/10 as much per acre as, or at least on their golf course, as does Neshotic. And they're both, 18-hole golf courses. So that's an area that I think is a ripe opportunity for some follow-up there.
Yeah, I mean, I actually feel a huge part of our purpose is to educate, both on helping people to understand what they're putting, or their landscapers putting on their yards, so that they can make decisions about it.
Yeah.
Also decisions about where they buy their fruits and vegetables, so that they just know, what they're supporting.
Yeah.
And then the pollinator habitat piece can come under education as well.
Yeah, I think that would be a good thing for that sort of broadens a little bit the scope of our committee, but in a way, getting involved with the Natural Resources Commission on that work at Harrington Park, I think that's the sort of thing that we could, as a committee, really help. Or when we went over and looked at, Brian, when you took us to show us the fields over by the river there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I hear you saying is you're actually narrowing the focus, or contemplating narrowing the focus to just be concerned with neonicotinoids. And I understand that they're uniquely problematic, but there are these other aspects of pollinator habitat, other pesticides.
We want to expand it, Brian, because at the moment it's written like it's just about neonics, but we're saying we want to expand it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were kind of doubling down on that in a way.
No, widening out.
No. I mean, actually, to be honest, I hadn't read this for a while, and I hadn't really appreciated how focused it was on neonics.
Yeah.
Because we have been doing much more than what's written in here.
I mean, I think education in terms of, the holistic, to use a trite term, but the holistic idea of, what pollinators need and the habitat, and that's the whole. That should be our what we're trying to do is.
Yeah.
So do we want to, every time the word neonicotinoids appears in here, because it's everywhere, is to say neonicotinoids and other
pesticides,
synthetic compounds?
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't,
synthetic compounds. Yeah.
I think
glyphosate's not a pesticide, is it?
Wait.
Yeah, I think it's even broader than that.
Yeah.
That if you look at the title of the committee, that's you know, pollinator health advisory committee is fine. But when you get down in the words, you're right. It focuses on neonicotinoids, but then you've got to broaden out. There are other chemicals, but you've got to broaden out further than that because there's the lack of the plants that the pollinators, the wild pollinators, depend upon, and that is becoming, I think, a more and more serious item for the town, as land that previously was open to the growth of flowers and wildflowers and natural food sources for the pollinators is vanishing. Even if the land remains unbuilt upon, people tend to clear everything off it, you know.
Right.
And you know that I think we should promote a broad agenda for this committee, and not just limit it to, certainly not just to neonicotinoids, or not just to the other chemicals, but get it as broad as we can, because I think doing something about food sources on all of the open land in Concord is just as important to the pollinators as getting rid of the chemicals.
I do think that replacing neonic with neonic and other pesticides,
Yes.
you know, not necessarily synthetic, but pesticides generally, might be, you know, a useful way to go forward. Because, you know, all right, so let's imagine a world in which neonics are proven to be extremely problematic and are completely regulated out of existence. There's another class of pesticides that's going to be coming down the pike that you know you have to play catch up. And you know, so I think you want to include pesticides in general, because the whole point of them is to kill insects, and you know, the problem is that people have to use them responsibly. I don't think
Do we want to say pesticides and herbicides?
I don't know about herbicides. I mean,
well, I'm hearing Stan talk about wanting to protect the environment generally.
yeah, but we're pollinator health committee.
Okay.
So I think we have to do our little slice, and if we really start to, you know, widen that out, it just becomes unmanageable.
We're not, okay.
But well, except the one point would be that that herbicides like glyphosate do have a damaging effect, along with if bees are absorbed a certain amount of neonics, if they're taking glyphosate as well, the neonics are even more damaging.
So looking at the end of this paragraph, the purpose, actually, if you read the very last sentence, it says the committee will review and or revise town policies regarding the use of neonics on town-owned land, and review and or propose town policies, if any, for the protection of pollinator habitats.
Yeah.
So it does actually say that. It's just whether we want to add in more about educating citizens on, you know, the risks to pollinators. I don't know if we just want to make a broader statement somewhere.
I like that last statement on pollinator habitats. I think, for example, at Harrington Park, we could easily write up something saying, here, you've got this park. If you make these following changes, you can improve the pollinator habitat. I think that would be a good thing for us to do.
Yeah, so it is in here. It's just kind of stuck on at the end. That's all. So it is there.
Right. But it's good, yeah.
And then so we're saying we'll add in and other pesticides where it says neonics, and we're going to add in the sentence about the environmental risks of these compounds. Is there anything else that people feel are missing in general from the charter? Because these are tiny changes, but I think they'll make a big difference.
I don't know if it's missing from the charter. I think it's in there, but one thing I wanted to share with you guys is, Lincoln is doing a lot of work on pollinator health.
Yeah.
They've the same fellow that was working in Great Barrington has been working with the town of Lincoln to establish what they call safe corridors. And a couple of their corridors bump right up against us on the other side of the Sudbury River. And it seems to me that it would be kind of cool for our committee to motivate the town to get as involved as Lincoln is, and do the same thing in Concord, sort of along the lines of that last sentence.
Yeah, I actually invested in joining that, and I bought a load of their native plants. So I've got a sign, which I haven't put out yet, which says I'm part of their corridor.
Excellent.
I haven't put it out yet. I thought Concord might object to a plastic sign in my garden, but we'll see.
Yeah. But in the interesting, have you guys all seen Giger's talk about the relationship of bee species and I know you have, Sarah, but bee species and plants. I mean, in other words, Stan mentioned this in a way, that if we lose some specific pollinators, there are several varieties of pollinators. We've got a lot of bumblebees right now, but they're all what is this called? Bombus impatiens, I think. But Bombus fervidus has almost gone out of existence in this part of the state in the last few years.
Yeah.
And yet it pollinates certain plants that rely on that pollinator. And if it's not there, the plant's not making seed. And as you were saying, Stan, those plants start to go out of existence. And then
do we want to capture something about native plants? I mean,
yes, I think we do.
I guess that is missing from this.
There's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of good plant lists, did you guys? Yeah, sorry.
But Mark, this very last sentence that I read out previously at the end of the purpose paragraph for the protection of pollinator habitats, I guess that could be interpreted as, I mean, the native plants that we need for the pollinators is a pollinator habitat, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we could say for the protection of native pollinator habitats. I don't know, maybe that's pushing it too far, because I'd rather people planted anything rather than nothing, if that makes sense. But
yeah, I think there's an area where I guess we could sort of take what, like, for example, the Natural Resources Committee, Delia's group, has put out a list of good plants to plant. But I think we could carry that a little further as a group.
Yeah, but we probably don't need to change any language.
Yeah.
To do it.
Okay.
I've lost my voice now. Have we?
Where are we with the proposed article warrant?
It's in the meeting agenda.
Yeah. It's in the hopper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the ball's in their cart entirely, huh?
Town meeting. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What about the membership?
Where have we had a hard time filling a slot? Where
The Board of Health.
And does that seem like it's going to continue to be impossible?
Yeah, I think we should take that out and increase the citizens at large.
Yeah, that seems
okay.
Like it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm for that.
That's a good idea, I think.
What else? So, Sig, do you feel comfortable talking about these changes?
Yeah, and I guess I'm going to have to rely on Jeremy to give me all of them because I haven't written them in. I mean, is it possible for Jeremy to?
I've written them in. I can send it to you.
Yeah, just give me a,
Yeah.
and then I think it'd be best to do a track changes, and then they can see exactly what we've done.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then I don't know that I have right at my fingertips whatever we gave them last fall in terms of a draft report.
Well, I've written 2 reports for I can send them all to you, Sig. So there was a contribution to both annual reports.
Yeah.
The 2019 that came out, no, 2018 that was published, and then I also submitted one for 2019, which I think that comes out at town meeting, so I haven't seen that yet.
Okay.
But I can send you those 2 documents, and I'll
And
send you this charter with the track changes.
And will they have it when I get there, or?
Yes, I'll well, first of all, I'll send it around to this group just to check if I've missed anything.
Yeah.
And remember, just reply to me if there's any changes.
Okay.
And then I can confirm with you and send it to Mike for the
Okay.
as well.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yep. All good.
Okay. And then well, you have to work out who your chair's going to be and where you're going to take it from here. You need to find some new members.
Yes, we do.
Mm-hmm.
And a new chair.
Yeah.
And a footstool to boot.
But
Is
as
this
I
your
said-
swan song? Is this it?
yeah.
You've done an amazing job, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you,
I
sir.
just
You're
wanna
really
tell
good.
you.
Well, I'm hoping I'm going to join the NRC, so I'll still work with you guys. I'll just be on the other side.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks
We're on
for
the same side, right?
great
Been
job.
an exemplary chairman.
Yes.
Really good job.
I think you're overstating it.
All right.
What
Thanks.
else? Is there
Good,
anything else?
good job, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun.
All right.
Okay, so I'm not sure. One other thing going forward, when the new committee is formed, as I said, Brian, you didn't hear this at the beginning, but at the moment the town is allowing committees to meet by Zoom if
Right.
they have essential business. And today we had essential business because our charter was coming to an end. But I'm not sure. When I guess as it comes up to town meeting, if they announce town meeting, then you definitely need to get together to work out that. And remember, I do have slides prepared for that. So if we are allowed to go forward with the article, we can pick it up from there. And
Mhm.
I'm happy to pass that off to whoever wants to present. Okay, so I won't ask for public comment unless Jeremy's listening and wants to say anything.
Nope, and I don't think there are any members of the public here, so should be good to go.
Thank you very much.
Okay, folks. Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you.
Hey.
I'll adjourn this meeting then. Do I have a second?
Second. Thank you.
Stay safe,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Adios.
Thanks, Jared.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.